Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I Became the Tyrant's Servant. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Catering the customers' concerns has been a daily routine for her. A raging customer is now shouting at her on the phone, wanting to sue her for the product that they have purchased. But what choice does she have other than answer them with a smile and respect? She yawns after that call. She feels so sleepy, so she reminds herself not to read novels the moment she gets home and to just go straight to bed. Suddenly, she accidentally falls asleep and wakes up into a completely different world as a completely different person. She seems so lost. Why is she in a castle? And why is there a black-haired man throwing a knife to a guard? The guard is unable to answer the Emperor's question in 3 seconds, and just with that, a knife is thrown directly at him. Luckily, it only scratches his neck, causing it to bleed. The guard's body is shaking, afraid of what's about to happen. Is this the last day of his life? Will he die right now? His legs wobble, scared that this will be the end of him. He immediately apologizes for what happened, for standing in the Majesty's way while he's playing a betting game. The girl who just came from another world slowly walks to see the commotion, and then it hits her. This is the novel that she's been reading. And that black-haired man is the Emperor Cardan, a tyrant who is known to be foolish, and that guard is Ethan. So, let's talk about this novel. The female lead, the princess of a weak country who is taken as a concubine of the male lead, the emperor of the empire, and so on. Yes, the situation was a typical romance novel. The climax of this novel is that a rebellion breaks out, and the imperial palace collapses and the male lead commits suicide in front of the female lead. The ending is sad since the female lead goes crazy because of the shock that she experienced. If all that she's seeing right now is true, then the man in front of her is Cardan Zeon, the male lead. He's the emperor of the Hythronian Empire. Jet black hair, blood red eyes, perfect angle of nose and chin that looks like it was carved with great care, but his personality? He is a tyrant and a womanizer. How can someone be this gorgeous and be so horrible? Suddenly, he looks at her, asking if she's thinking about anything else. In this scenario, any wrong answer could lead to her demise. So she puts on her act and smiles at him, saying that she's not thinking about anything else. Then she tries to get on his good side, telling him what Ethan did was certainly terrible. Cardan smirks and throws a knife at Ethan, which injures his arm. Cardan looks at him and asks if death should be the right punishment for her. Shock is evident on her face, especially since one word from her and that man will lose his life. She knows she can't let that happen, so she looks at Cardan and suggests Ethan to be demoted from his current position to the lowest guard position. Losing the position as a royal guard that he worked on all his life for Ethan, it'll be worse than death, and just with that, his life is spared. I guess you used your call center experience for this scenario, huh? Suddenly, Cardan declares that he feels uncomfortable seeing blood in the morning. This blew up her mind. He's the one who wounded the guard in the first place. His servants then ask him if he needs to call another woman or just someone, but Cardan smiles, saying that the one he needs to call is right in front of him. Cardan looks at her and calls her Erina, Duchess of Valois. She's the one he needs. Huh? What? What did he just say? She calms herself. She has to decline because the moment she gets involved with that trash, her life will be over. She smiles at him and declines in the most polite manner possible. She says that she is honored if she could match his expectation, but at the same time, she doesn't know if she really could. Cardan smiles at her. He is quite surprised that she's nervous, for it's very unlikely of her. The moment the meeting ends, she can't hide how happy and proud she is of herself for surviving that moment. But isn't it cruel to possess someone else's body during a meeting? She turns around and faces the mirror, and that's when she just completely realizes that she possesses Erina Valois' body. Girl, now you gotta get used to it, because you'll meet him more starting today. Erina Valois, although her role as a villain isn't much, she clearly remembers the way she appeases the Emperor even when criticized because she felt she had to laugh even when hearing things she didn't like. Although it seems impressive, by order of the tyrant, she has to do everything to avoid being abandoned. Although she was an unfortunate character who was immediately sentenced to execution. Her face dooms, questioning her fate. It frustrates her that everyone is doing well as a main character, but she's just an extra character who's meant to die immediately. She doesn't like it. Poor girl, it's not the most ideal situation. However, in the novel, the Emperor and Duchess of Valois were superior and subordinates with little contract. She wonders if there were some hidden stories that she's not aware of. But before digging into that, she gets out to see with her own eyes what this world looks like. The light from the sun gives justice to how beautiful the place is. With its long staircase, towers and castles, huge trees and pretty flowers, everything in this place is majestic. Suddenly, she sees the guards escorting Ethan. The moment they see her, they stop and bow. To her surprise, Ethan expresses his deep gratitude for her despite losing his position. But still, she feels bad that because of what she did, the position he's been working his entire life for was taken unfairly. But that's already much better than his life being taken away. She tells the poor knight that he can come to her anytime if he needs anything in the future. With that, the knight once again thanks her sincerely. This knight is so dashing. I need to cover my eyes because of how enchanting he is. When they leave, a maid approaches her and asks her to come with her to get ready for the afternoon meal. But she seems clueless about it, so even the maid wonders about her unusual reaction. She is then informed about the meal that she will have with the King Taraka, his wife, and Cardan. The moment she hears about that, her face goes pale. She can't believe she has to deal with that all over again. She was a call center employee until a few hours ago, and now she's having a meal with the king and a tyrant? Then, there is no time for her to be looking around the palace. She immediately asks the maid to escort her to her room, where she looks around the files to understand the emperor's business first. There, she finds out that the palace is on the verge of bankruptcy. Her eyes widen, realizing that this will be the death of her, the bane of her existence. She will surely die earlier than the real Erina Valois. In this empty treasury, what if he'll ask to build something the next day? She will surely die sooner. She sits down and thinks. Now, the best thing for her to do is to save up funds for exile and escape before the empire falls. And for Cardan to have no doubt, she has to fulfill his dreams and hopes. She'll become a traitor. In the meeting, the King Taraka seems to be bothered with her presence since he clearly wanted to have a meeting with Cardan only. But Erina explains that she's there to taste Cardan's food to prevent him from being poisoned. Throughout the meeting, she shamelessly does everything that Cardan says, even if it means offending the king. Just like now, Erina grabs the king's already cut steak just because Cardan says that he doesn't like cutting his steak. Guilt and embarrassment slowly eats her up from the inside. She wants to disappear. Why is he so petty? Oh my god, this frustrates me. Now that his steak is already ready to be consumed, he can finally eat. Erina thinks that her job is done, but then Cardan suddenly says that he's feeling hot. She instantly grabs the fan from the king's wife. The king's wife is certainly shocked by what she did. When Cardan asks her to stop fanning him because he doesn't like the smell, she instinctively throws the fan through the window. This gains an unpleasant reaction from the king and his wife. Turns out, the fan holds precious memory from the king's wife's mother. Suddenly, she feels bad because of what she did, but she has no time to worry about that. When Cardan also says something about the statue's head, she also grabs the king's wig and puts it on the statue. Well, she just put a cloth on the king's head so Cardan won't be bothered by it. All of those shameless things she does to save her life and to get on the good side of Cardan. The discussion between the king and Cardan isn't going very well. He seems to not be interested in all of it, and in the end, all he talked about was the banquet. It was as if the couple went there for nothing. The banquet. That is where Cardan will meet the female lead. She suddenly stands up and shares how the banquet would be lovely and how excited she is for it, and promises to work her ass off to achieve greatness to everyone. From the moment Cardan meets the female lead, her countdown to the death penalty begins. If she wants to survive, next spring when Cardan is distracted with the female lead, she must escape from the Empire. Right after the meal, Erina gives the fan and wig to the king and his wife. Of course, they are understandably upset and walk away the moment they grab it. Who wouldn't be upset if they were treated like that, though? But before they can fully leave, Erina bows and asks for their forgiveness and tells them that she would like to compensate them for the damage that she has caused. With eyes full of sincerity, she looks at them and asks them if there's something they wanted her to do. The couple seems to be hesitant at first, but this is a huge opportunity for them to grab, knowing that Erina has the capability to do that. The king explains how they are thinking about expanding their Taraka silk business. Taraka silk. It rings a bell. Erina knows it perfectly. It is a silk that was used every time in the dresses of the female protagonists. It was so expensive that the Empire's finances were on the verge of bankruptcy. So why bother expanding a popular business that is already well? However, the king openly told her that the silk business isn't known well and hasn't been tested yet, which completely shocked her. Does it mean that today there are many more people who don't know the silk of the kingdom of Taraka, which is famous for its high price? The king explains that if they can expand their business and solidify their commercial relationship with the empire, they wouldn't be treated carelessly. That's why he would be glad if she would help them export it at an original price. For Erina, helping them would be such a great success. She held the king's hand and promised to help them. It may not be easy, but she will strive to do it. Erina's in her office managing the documents, but why is someone who's supposed to be out partying and drinking in her office? He even messed up the documents she had organized after staying up all night. Suddenly, Cardan leans by the table and asks her why she changed her mind about killing Ethan when she's the one who ordered him to kill Ethan. It turns out that the original Erina asked him to kill Ethan since he's Empress Dowager's dog. This is completely new information. Now that Dowager is mentioned, did she not appear in the last part of the novel when she delivered confidential information that turned out to be confidential to Esland? Cardan looks at her and slowly touches her cheeks as he commends her for her correct judgments, but also asks her to think about him running from here to there just to fulfill her requests. It's not like he's playing with people, because the more he looks at her, it's getting more unpleasant, so she should at least establish a contract to the extent possible. Contract? This is something that's not even in the original novel. This is important information, but now that expression of contempt he's giving towards her makes her mind go blank. No matter how drop-dead gorgeous you are, Mr. Emperor, you are definitely a red flag. She has to act nicely, so she stands up and apologizes to him and promises to get rid of the things that afflict him. With that, she walks towards the window, planning to jump as an act of sacrificing herself to the tyrant's expectations. But before she can even jump, Cardan stops her and sits her on the floor. He looks at her with those cold red eyes, telling her to do it all in moderation. Cardan is out, and now she's alone in the office where she decided to take a look at the documents in the past. From Cardan's words before, she realized that Duchess Valois has some kind of pact with him. She has the power to turn the guard and to keep the Empress in check at the same time. She doesn't even know the terms of the pact, but if she breaks anything, it would be a new way to be executed. Based on the documents, she's able to know more about the Valois house. Her letters to the noble family were all secret agreements. The laws that were changed after she became a duchess were only for her own benefit, and reports that Ethan delivered that are nothing more than a detailed document of every movement of the Emperor. Now she knew exactly why Cardan looked at her like that. The tyrant is not fact Cardan, but the real Duchess Valois. What a shocking revelation! This story is so unpredictable. To make sure of the Duchess's powers, she also finds suspicious things in her office. For instance, a book entitled Instruction for Feeding Birds, a portrait, and a book of poisonous herbs. Looking at the portrait, she isn't really familiar with who that woman was, but she seems to resent her for a reason she doesn't know. Suddenly, a maid arrives with her meal. The table is set just as it says in the instruction for feeding birds. She gives it a try where she feeds the 3 birds one of her meals and leaves the last bird hungry. However, a minute passed by and one bird vomited blood and fainted. Was the Duchess feeding those birds to detect poison? The symptoms of vomiting blood and the sweet smell of salad? It's the same thing she read in the book of poisonous herbs, and there's no antidote written in it. Now she has no way to help the bird. But she can't keep doing this cruel method of detecting poisons. She has no other choice but to follow the immunization method. She can't think of whoever is poisoning her, so now she'll just start with the easiest opponent. Ethan! Oh no, the bird! It's too precious to die! She visits Ethan's home and asks how he is adjusting with his new position. He looks like he has no idea why she's there and replies that he's adjusting well. He certainly acts nicely and full of gratitude towards her. Erina thinks that he seems to know nothing. She grabs the salad from the basket and gives it to him, as she smiles and tells him to eat it since it's tasty and healthy. Ethan's heart melts. She helped him escape from death and now she's giving him a salad? He can't explain how grateful he is for it and promised to never make a mistake again. Seeing how appreciative Ethan is, Erina feels a bit of guilt. However, before she can even stop Ethan from taking a bite, he already did, causing him to cough and vomit it. Thankfully, Ethan was just choking on a piece of lettuce. LOL. The salad was not poisoned at all since Erina personally picked the vegetables from the garden. Ethan just seems to be so kind and appreciative towards her. She just can't think of him as a criminal. But if it isn't him, who is it? Maybe Cardan planned it? But no, she can't draw conclusions yet. At this moment, everyone can be the enemy. As she's walking in the hallway, she suddenly feels dizzy. She thought it would be okay to eat a little more of those salads, but symptoms are now attacking her. She's now experiencing this in a place where people who want to kill her are lurking. Suddenly, Cardan appears and stops her from falling. If he wants to kill her, he can do it now since no one's around. But instead of harming her, he carries her in a bridal style. She's embarrassed and asks him to put her down, but she's ordered to stay still. She wakes up in her office and sees Cardan. The moment she sits down, she looks at him taking a bite of the salad. He's crazy. Why is he eating that? Isn't it a dangerous amount even for a master of sword like him? But then he immediately puts down the fork as he says that the salad has a cheap taste before getting closer to her and looking intently in her eyes. He then asks her to stop doing useless things. What does he mean by that? Erina doesn't really know what he's thinking as of the moment. While Cardan's walking outside, his crow approached him and handed him a letter. It's a letter stating that the Empress Dowager invited Duchess Erina to her house. What could the Empress be thinking? Moreover, what kind of person was the Duchess in the past for her to be invited by the Empress? The Empress's house is full of pink, gold, and white colors with some flowers that complement each detail of it. Erina arrives and greets Empress Dowager. Dowager's face is full of smiles, clearly stating how happy she is that Erina came, since it's been a long time since she came. Amelia Aisland, the Empress Dowager in the original play, not Cardan's biological mother, was a character with no presence. She only appears once, until she delivers the secret of the Empire to her country of origin, Aisland. She can now no longer trust the original work after she was poisoned, so she supposed she made her own plans too. I mean, I would do the same if I was poisoned. I will surely no longer trust anyone other than myself. While drinking the sweet tea that Duchess Dowager prepared for her, Erina looks at Dowager, wondering if she really wants to be close to Duchess Valois. Well, she can't really be so sure about that, so she still has to check it. Erina immediately calls Dowager's attention, telling her that she bought a gift. Dowager's face lit up. A sudden glimpse of happiness and excitement is written all over it. Suddenly, a maid enters pushing a cart with the tea that she prepared. Erina prepared it herself. It's a faith made of Marisa. Dowager laughs, expressing how surprised she is to hear that since Erina usually uses more flavored flowers in her tea. But then Erina explains that she may like flavored flowers, but she also likes the subtle aroma of the Marisa. And unlike the root, the Marisa flower is not poisonous, so they can take it with confidence. Erina's eyes gaze through the maid that's pushing the cart, and the maid seems scared and guilty, as she should be. Of course she is. She poisoned Erina's food after all. However, Erina can't interrogate her right now. She'll only reveal that she's after the guilty one. For now, her priority is revealing the background before dealing with significant people. However, the moment the maid serves, it slips through her hands and spills on the floor. The maid apologizes to her as well as the Dowager, in which Erina accepts. But then Erina also excuses herself, telling them that she still has meetings to attend to. The moment Erina turns her back, the maid looks at Dowager and the other servant beside her, clearly exchanging glances with meanings behind it. Realizing what just happened, Erina can now say that the culprit is the Empress Dowager. She must have paid the servant to poison her food. But why would she do that? What a smart way to confirm the culprit! In the room, Erina's head hurts because of what happened. She remembers when Dowager told her not to trust Cardan too much, and her thinking that Dowager is the one who wants to poison her. Information is stirring up, and there are too many questions forming inside her head. If only she knew why real Erina Valois was so opposed to the Empress, but there's no record about that. In any case, she still prefers to be poisoned than be executed. At least she knows who's behind it. But still, she has to keep an eye on the Empress. The next day, Erina's outside when she sees Cardan looking intently at the maid who poisoned her. Their faces are so close to each other while he's holding her chin. Then, she remembers when Dowager told her not to trust Cardan too much. This made her think, is Cardan the one behind it all? Shock is evident in her eyes, and her heart is pounding like crazy. She has to do something. She has to leave this palace immediately or she'll die. The next day, Erina asks Cardan's permission to go on a tour. She claims that it would be nice for her to go on a tour to inspect the country. Cardan doubts if she's okay about it since it seems to be a troublesome work. But then Erina wants to do it since she wonders if the national treasury is decreasing every day and there is a leak somewhere. Cardan smirks and looks at her and bluntly tells her to just be honest since everyone knows that she's just there for money. Erina is pretty shocked by it, but she has to continue her act and get on Cardan's nice side. In her mind, she has to leave right away even though it's just a tour. But even if she'll do that, she still doesn't know the state of the country and will still be executed either way. In that case, it'll be better to lay the foundation for an escape in advance. To avoid Cardan's doubt, Erina assures him that through the tour, she will let others know his deep intentions for the country. She plans to publicize him as a holy warrior who will be remembered in history. Cardan's eyes glared as if it's full of vengeful feelings, clearly not liking what Erina just said. Erina suddenly feels the instant shift in the atmosphere. Dang, she made a mistake! Cardan must have thought that she's making fun of him. She tries too hard to control the situation, but Cardan suddenly walks towards her and holds her chin to look at him. And surprisingly, he gives her a smile, telling her to do what she wants to do, since she's always been like that. Standing by his window while looking at Erina, who's about to ride the carriage, Cardan remembers what happened yesterday when he confronts the maid. So now we know that he wasn't hitting up with that maid. The fear from the maid's face was indescribable the moment he ordered her to tell the Empress Dowager that Erina's life is his. He knows it all along, and he won't be fooled by them. His crow appears and orders it to find out what Erina's doing. Erina's first stop is in the God's Land, where there she meets Baron Haynes. The owner seems to be so afraid of her and will always apologize to her whenever he makes a tiny bit of a mistake. It seemed like the true Erina built some kind of impression. In order to make Baron comfortable, Erina tries to talk to him gently and engage with a talk about how famous the berries are. Just with that, Baron swiftly became a bit comfortable with her. There, Baron shares about how they plan to grow new blueberry species. As soon as she hears that, she remembers that one scene from the original novel where Cardan asks his servant to execute Baron, since the harvest is low in quality and his wife wasn't able to eat blueberries. In an instant, she looks at Baron and asks him to rest a bit in the south after he gets the blueberry seedlings there. Wanting to save Baron Haynes' life, Erina asks him to go on a vacation with her. Cardan's crow immediately hears this and reports this to Cardan, in which he flicks his crow. That kind of information is not what he's expecting. He asks it to check the situation, but it's just listening to them while conversing. However, Cardan realizes that Erina seems to be doing an unexpected trip right now. Is she thinking about running away? But she's not supposed to be doing it. There's a limit. There's a contract that she must maintain. With a face full of seriousness, he stands up and grabs his cloak, ready to head towards Erina's destination. The next morning, Baron Haynes asks Erina if she slept well, in which she says she did, but it's obviously a lie. She hasn't slept a bit since she spent the night looking at the accounting books. Looking at Baron Haynes' accounting book, Erina is in awe since his accounting book is so transparent without any tax evasion. His eyes land on Ethan. He probably hasn't had any sleep too, but still, he looks pretty good. A bit unfair if you ask me. As she stares at him, Erina can't help but wonder how he manages to keep the accounting book a secret. Even for a baron, it must not have been an easy task. Suddenly, Ethan looks at her and smiles, which makes her cheeks red. She cups her cheeks, forcing herself to come back to her senses. She has to focus. Her life is at stake. Erina suddenly stops the moment she smells something strange. It turns out that the farm's water has been poor recently. The river's water is full of wastewater, coming from the wastewater of the Marquis of Sherrington's property upriver. Baron Haynes tries to assure her that it's okay since the berries near the river are mist. But for Erina, it's not okay. It will never be okay. She holds his hands, and with eyes full of will and sincerity, she assures the Baron that she'll help him. Erina's having a meeting with the Marquis of Sherrington. The meat is repetitive, the wine smells cheap, but what he's wearing seems to be expensive, which leads her to assume that his accounting books seem to be disordered. It's amazing how she already knows about it just by watching his meals and the way he dresses. Without wasting any time, she asks him about the state of his farm, which immediately made him feel bad. They're having a bad harvest, which is making it difficult for them to collect taxes. Erina brings up how well Baron Haynes' farm is doing. He looks shocked and intrigued by it, clearly not expecting for it to happen. Erina looks at him intently, and with a serious voice and face, she asks him if he's trying to monopoly berry business. The Marquis looks in shock. He doesn't know what she's talking about. She explains that she refers to the berries. Those short crops require a lot of water, so Baron Haynes probably got that water from the river. Marquis immediately reacted angrily, as if the river was his. Erina then tells him that Baron's berry business is successful due to the water from Marquise River. Well, of course, Marquise will do it, but then Erina has a better idea. He should build a dam. Then, the Baron will no longer have access to water and could build a berry business with the dam. But the cost of the dam is pretty high. However, if he can present some documents, the Imperial family can finance it with low interest. She asks him to bring his tax returns, list of assets he owns, the statement of financing resources, and statements of various transactions. The Marquise brings the documents, but Erina clearly knows it's not all of it, in which he excuses that the situation is not good as of the moment. In an instant, she bluntly asks him if he's taking money from the Empire. Shock is evident in his eyes, looking for ways to lie, but Erina has the accounting book. He's now cornered. Numerous investments and illegal gambling under false names abroad are found in the book. He even took the profits to Esland. If Cardan finds out about it, she'll surely be executed. Feeling defeated, Marquise kneels and asks for her help. She looks at him and offers to lend him some money for the construction. However, the taxes that haven't been paid will have to be paid. Only half. The Marquise is surprised to hear that he only has to pay it in half. But of course, there is something in return. He has to give her all the money that he diverted to Aisland, then she'll act as if nothing happened. What a smart way to get money! After all of it, Erina's peacefully sitting in the carriage when all of a sudden it stops. She steps out, wanting to know what happened, when all of a sudden, Ethan walks towards her holding a horse. It turns out that he bought it so she can ride it. Erina doesn't know what to say. She's a person from the modern world. Of course, she barely knows how to ride it. She looks at the other guard, wanting to ask for help, but he just smiles at her, thinking that it's better for her to ride the horse too. In the end, she had no choice but to do it. But the moment she rode it, the horse acted strangely. It begins to jump and run as if something's hurting it. She can't take control. In an instant, a man wearing a cloak appears and helps her hold the reins. The man helps her get down from the horse. He examines the horse and finds out something. A perfectly cut glass hurts the horse, causing it to react like that. It seems like someone from the inside wants to kill her. Ethan and the other guards run towards her and ask her if she's okay. He suddenly removes his jacket and puts it on her as he guides her to the tent. In the tent, Erina looks at the glass. It's perfectly cut to fit under the chair. She can't believe someone from the inside wants to kill her. She thought she already did everything to avoid those people. In an instant, someone attacked her. She's quick enough to avoid it, but the man is skilled enough to catch up on her. The moment she looks at the man, it's Ethan. She can't believe it's him. She completely thought he's on her side. Oh my god, I didn't expect it to be him. The man wearing a cloak earlier appears and helps her, but then Ethan runs away. In an attempt to go after Ethan, Erina holds the man's hand and asks him not to kill Ethan. Ethan's kneeling on the floor. Erina walks in front of him, carefully asking why he did that, but she got no answer from him other than sorry. The two guards accompany him to the prison while Erina and the man are watching. Erina looks at the man and bows, expressing her gratitude for helping her twice, and that she knew he was Cardan. Cardan smirks. He knows he can never hide his identity from Erina's eyes. He saved her twice, and she will never be able to forget that. Cardan thinks that it's strange for her to do that, and that he only did it because of the contract. She laughs. Indeed, Cardan's loyalty to the contract is an example for all. About to go, Erina stops Cardan from going since it's already nighttime, but Cardan shoves it off. He only stops when she brings up about him that he might have to save her for the third time. If she dies, the contract will be broken, and he might have to move from one place to another because of her. She holds his clothes, begging him to stay for the night, in which Cardan is still surprised. She was never like that. The moment they enter the tent, she immediately realizes that it's too small. Only if she knew that he'd be there, she might have prepared a bigger one. Cardan sits on the bed and unbuttons his shirt, which makes her cheeks redden. She looks away and walks towards the other side, planning to stay and sleep there. Moments pass by. She feels as if she's dying of cold, while he, on the other side, feels extremely comfortable. When Cardan realizes that she's struggling to lessen the cold, he pulls her to lie on the bed. Erina tries to argue, but then, with the body like hers who hasn't slept on a hard place, he can clearly see how happy she is to be lying on the mattress. Well, she's clearly smiling. But then Cardan looks at her and crawls on top of her as he tries to close a gap between them. With a little space from his place and hers, he tells her that the bed is wide and she can sleep with him. If she doesn't want that, he won't stop her if she wants to sleep on the floor. And with that, Both of them shared the bed for the night. The next morning, Cardan wakes up with Erina peacefully hugging him. Gosh, they truly look good together. Looking at her peaceful, sleeping, beautiful face, he can't help but wonder what she's up to. Suddenly, she's helping Baron Haynes and going to Marquis Sherrington, where he thinks that there hasn't even been a conflict. And now she's approaching him first where she hasn't even done before. What is she even plotting? Meanwhile, a letter telling that Marquis Sherrington will be giving his money to Erina is sent to Empress Dowager. This can't help but make her laugh out of anger. Truly, Erina is a money-hungry girl. The moment she knew that Erina's next destination will be the Gaisbin estate, she ordered her servant to tell the people who were on their side there to be ready for Erina's arrival, hoping they could get close. She also asked if Cardan had returned, and when he did. She wonders why he left the capital. She can't help but ask why a guy like him is sitting on the throne. Only if his son is still alive, he wouldn't be doing something like this. Erina wakes up from a nice sleep. Truly, she won't be sleeping that comfortably without him by her side. The moment Cardan sees her letting the birds eat, he immediately told her that he'll leave, in which he did. Chugging multiple glasses full of beer, the people around him are amazed by how good of a drinker he is. Suddenly, a drunk woman approaches him, asking what brings him there since he seems to be new in that place. Cardan looks at her, saying that he's looking for a woman and that he's searching all over the capital for her. The woman cups his face, asking him to spend the night with her, in which he gladly accepted. Before they leave, he looks at the strange person wearing a cloak who seems to be looking at him. In the room, the woman is sleeping while Cardan is sitting on the corner of the bed. Nothing happened between him and the woman. He only did that so the person who's following will leave and report what he did to Empress Dowager. It frustrates him. How long does he have to do it? The guards are kneeling. Blood keeps dropping from their wounded arms. They look like they're in pain and worried at the same time since they lost Ethan. Because he is someone with excellent skills, the guards guarding him were totally defenseless. The guards offer to form a group and find Ethan, but Erina stops the search and asks them to treat their wound and rest first, and move to the nearby town to regroup. The moment they arrive at the place where they intend to stay, the guards can't contain their guilt as they all kneel and ask her to punish them for losing the guy who tried to kill her. She looks shocked. Does she even need a reason to treat them so badly? But then, she still has to live up to her title as a duchess, and if she doesn't speak right now, her dignity as a duchess will be undermined. She clearly doesn't want to do it, but she has no choice. She looks at them, and with an authoritative voice, she tells them that their punishment will be given in the Imperial Palace, so they must learn from their mistakes and don't do it again. For the meantime, she ordered them to treat their wounds and concentrate on their tasks after. Erina's room will be the last room on the second floor. While walking towards her room, in her head, she thinks about washing her body right away and sleep the moment she gets inside. When all of a sudden, a guy half naked goes out of her room and complains to the owner about his water not being hot. She knows that guy. It's Cardan. It's as if all her blood went up on her face after seeing his body. She wasn't expecting that at all. Cardan is also surprised to see her. When the owner leaves to take care of the situation, Cardan tries to explain that it's all a misunderstanding and that the woman is just sleeping. She tells him that he must have been stressed, but Cardan can see that she thinks of it in a different way. He tries to tell her again that she's sleeping, to which she replies that she understands. But then Cardan holds her hand, telling her that that's not all. He pins her against the wall as he closes the gap between them. He looks at her intently, asking her not to misinterpret what happened because it's just a toy trying to match his great game. Okay, what are you trying to do here, Cardan? Out of frustration, Cardan screams at Erina that he's just trying to keep up his facade because of their contract. Erina has no idea what contract he keeps yapping about, but she tries not to make it too obvious that she doesn't know. So she averts the topic by suggesting that he goes to bed as she's worried it will take a toll on his health. Cardan getting angry kinda makes him look hotter than usual. That's simply unfair, mister. Cardan is not having it today. He knows that Erina doesn't totally believe him. He closes their distance and asks her if she thinks he'll abandon Eleanor like a certain someone. Okay, but who's Eleanor? Erina suddenly remembers the woman in the portrait, so she wonders if it's her. She knows that this tyrant of hers sleeps with different women every day, so why is he desperately trying to clear his reputation of it in front of her, she wonders. There is nothing but awkward silence, so Cardan lets her off this time. He then opens Erina's door and claims that he wants to stay in her room since his room is occupied. He slyly says that she can join him in the bed, just like last night. This causes Erina to shiver. Erina complains in her head because she wants a bed all to herself. She knows she can't do anything about it, so she might as well accept tonight's fate. They already slept in the same bed once. What could happen this time? Later, deep in the night, Erina is on the side of the bed, fast asleep, while the Tyrant is still awake, sitting at the foot of the same bed. He hears tapping on the window. His crow spy is finally here. There's a note attached to its beak with the words escaped, wounded, recovery, off course. Cardan is just learning that Ethan had escaped after he captured him. He crumples the note and looks at the sleeping Erina. He didn't take into account that she would suddenly prioritize the wounded soldiers over her own safety. Erina mumbles in her sleep, looking for her heater as it's starting to get cold. This annoys Cardan, while his crow stifles his own laugh. The next day, outside in the snow, she meets with Margrave of the Hethronia Empire, Count Gaithven. He respectfully has her come inside as it's snowing. Apparently, Cardan is with them as well. He comments on the fact that her knight's hands are still intact. This makes Erina flinch and realize something. They all lost a captured assassin, yet every one of them is able to walk and has all limbs in place. He then adds that he didn't know she would be generous enough to let them heal up first. Count Gaithven notices the both of them talking. He confronts the one with the hood, Cardan. He doesn't realize that it's the tyrannical emperor. You better start counting your days, Count Gaithven. Erina starts panicking. If the Margrave gets executed, no one will protect the border. She hurriedly responds that it's better for her to tend to her own horse. She's hiding the fact that the man with the hood is her emperor. Poor Count Gaithven thinks that he's her servant. The three of them finally get inside the place. Count Gaithven notices that the Duchess is shivering. He comments that a servant should take his own cloak for his master. He's really asking for it. I wonder how he'll react if he finds out he's been dissing the emperor. Erina thinks of a way to avert Count Gaithven's attention from Cardan. She mentions that he lives in a huge castle, but there aren't a lot of maids. Erina then notices his expression, which looks like a familiar one back in her world. She then takes the initiative and brings out the customer service rep persona. Count Gaithven is hesitant at first, but then he finally drops the bomb. Over hundreds of people have started disappearing in the past year up till now. As Erina recalls, the original novel was a tragedy, and as such, its world was supposedly infested with illegal slave traders. Under the negligence of the Tyrant, those slave traders steadily expanded their territory. When they couldn't stand it any longer, the people of the Empire rioted, and thus, with the war against Aisland, the Empire eventually fell. Now I'm starting to wonder, how could the original ML and FL fall in love in an environment like that? With this knowledge, she announces that she will look into the disappearances carefully. What a way to delay her own death, I guess. This delights Count Gaithven to the point that he has his maids prepare a feast for her. He even offers her some wine, but instead of an old man like him, he points to Cardan, who he still thinks is just her servant. This makes Erina tremble, as it already seems as if her tyrant emperor has had enough. She immediately refuses to be served by him, but Count Gaithven insists that he does it. My wild guess is that Count Gaithven will be the next to disappear. LOL. The hooded Cardan gets close to Erina, taunting her. Erina looks like she's being eaten alive. Count Gaithven points out that her servant shouldn't be wearing his cloak indoors. He's rather persistent about him taking it off. The Duchess is becoming more and more desperate to hide her own boss's identity. She makes everyone speechless by proclaiming that she prefers her men that way, as she has a jawline fetish. This scene was hilarious. Out of everything she could think of, it had to be something as wild as this. After this scene, she finally takes the spot of being my favorite MC. Count Gaithven stops being persistent and just lets it be, out of shock. Of course, he has to know the servant's name at least. Cardan's servant persona name is Heater. Noda Heater. Hearing this gets Erina flustered as she remembers the first night they slept together. She finally remembers being in Cardan's arms. He then pours wine as promised, to which she gulps it all up. Erina thinks the wine tastes familiar. Upon realizing it, she immediately slumps over. Cardan rushes to her aid. Count Gaithven asks if she's dead. A furious Cardan tells him to shut up unless he wants to take responsibility for an attempted murder. Upon taking Erina to a more secluded room, Count Gaithven has his maids and servants lock the castle gates and have those involved with the wine detained. Cardan spots an empty room and lays her on the bed. His blood would help neutralize the poison, so he kisses her. I'm speechless. This was all too sudden. He then gives her threats that she is not to die or else she'll be breaching their contract. If she does, he will let her corpse rot outside like a criminal. Erina Valois is not allowed to die without his permission. Help! The duality of this man, I can't! Sometime after the whole fiasco, the doctor has finally finished assessing the poisoned Duchess. He then pronounces that she ingested more than the lethal dose of Mareza, so there's no way to cure her now. Before he can continue speaking, Cardan suddenly kicks him out. The tyrant gets close to Erina, taunting her out of her unconsciousness when he notices that her clothes have been soaked with wine. He looks around the place for any spare clothes and stumbles upon an unlocked chest. He takes out whatever it is and wonders why it's in this place. The next day, Erina miraculously wakes up. Instead of a rushing Cardan, she is greeted by an inquisitive one. In his hand is the item from the chest, which is Erina's. He shows her the portrait, the one that had Eleanor. Apparently, she brought it with her since it might have something to do with the contract. I can't believe he's not even happy that she woke up. I mean, the doctor basically pronounced her dead last night. Erina quickly reasons out that she just wants to keep remembering Eleanor. However, this seems to be the wrong answer. Cardan is infuriated. He yanks her and asks her what kind of person Eleanor is. Erina stutters, in total fear of not knowing what to say and in fear that she may be executed right here and then. Come on, girl, think! Use the knowledge you have of the novel. I'm beginning to think your favorite novel wasn't actually your favorite. She manages to tell him that Eleanor is his lover. The answer calms Cardan down. He lets her take the portrait and makes her get more rest. He goes outside and concludes that there's something wrong with Duchess Valois, as he suspected. Her actions in the past few days weren't things that Erina would do, such as helping a low-ranking baron and letting Ethan go easily. Not to mention, she didn't even punish the knights who lost him. He's realizing that she's behaving like someone who has lost her memories. Oh gosh, I love smart characters. He then concludes that if she doesn't remember Eleanor, that means she doesn't remember the contract either. This could be his last chance to find his mother, Eleanor. And so the plot thickens. I did not see that coming at all. A while after Irina's recovery, Count Gathvin visits her and cries happy tears to see her alive and well. Erina thinks it's thanks to her body's original owner that she's alive. It seems that building resistance against poison really does work. Count Gathvin then clarifies that he has nothing to do with the poisoning. I guess he's really just worried about being accused of the Duchess's attempted murder. The Duchess believes him as he has nothing to gain with her death. He proudly announces that he locked everyone who touched the wine in the dungeons. He's going to make them confess, even if he has to break every bone in their bodies. Erina stops the thought, as she has a better plan. She wants to make them think that she's already dead. That way, they'll be able to spot the culprit effectively. The Duchess's death has become an ongoing topic inside the castle. The maids are almost certain that she's truly dead because they overheard what the doctor had said. Just as it was about to get good, they all shush themselves to avoid being heard and avoid looking suspicious. Little do they know the proclaimed dead Duchess has been eavesdropping on them. Erina is living in the attic to make everyone in the castle think she's truly dead. She then thinks of Cardan, who she hasn't seen since the last time. As if on cue, her door burst open and it's him with a plate full of food for her. As she sets the food down to eat, she asks if he wants to eat as well. He scowls at her as the food is fit for a dog. Well, he's pretty much the same as before. Later at night, Erina is awoken by Cardan. He wants to take her somewhere. She protests as if they could do it in daylight, but he then reminds her that someone who's supposed to be dead shouldn't be seen walking around in broad daylight. It's cold outside, and it's making Erina shiver. Cardan notices this and tears the bear coat furniture and tosses it to her. Wow, somehow he can be romantic sometimes. Just as she's about to complain, Cardan opens the window and spots the running culprit. It's the old butler who was beside the margrave during the time she drank the wine. They have to catch him, but they won't make it on time if they have to use the stairs. Before Erina could ask how, Cardan takes her by the hand and has her in his arms. Princess Carrie style. He then jumps down from the high window down to the snowy land. As they land, Cardan takes the bear coat off her and throws it in the running butler's direction. Erina can't take how crazy this tyrant is. This scene had me rolling in laughter. He is indeed crazy. He has her in near-death situations, and this has to be the best one yet. The butler senses a presence from miles away. As he turns around, he's greeted by an angry-looking bear. In the castle, a butler accuses the margrave of ordering him to kill the Duchess, angering Count Gathvin. Erina raises her hand, indicating she doesn't believe he's doing this for him. The butler insists Count Gavin is scheming with a noble in the capital, causing annoyance for Count Gavin. Cardan comes back after rummaging through the butler's things for clues. Erina takes some parchment and smells something familiar off it. Now she's sure who the real culprit is. News spread past the castle gates, and this is because Erina probably let the butler send out the messenger bird. At the Imperial Ballroom, the Duchess's death is the rising topic among all that they could possibly talk about. The Emperor enters the room and asks what they're all talking about in such delight. Apparently, news of Irina Valoy's death is what came in from the messenger today. Emperor Cardan proclaims that it's better to hear it from a direct source instead. On cue, Irina Valoy herself comes in right after, shocking everyone in place. Yo, she is giving queen vibes in this part. Everyone is still in shock, but Cardan immediately starts questioning Erina about what had happened in a chronological manner. She even has Count Gavin with her, who everyone else thought was the culprit of the attempted murder. I was wondering why Cardan was questioning her as if he wasn't there until I remembered that he was hiding his identity while in the castle. LOL. Everything is deduced rather quickly, especially when Erina points out that only one of them knows how she was killed. All proof points toward Marquess Sherrington. Even the messenger bird was of help for it. Without further ado, he is executed. Damn, just like that. After the entire fiasco, they're finally back home. Erina is rather disappointed that she's not able to get a clue about Empress Dowager. Right now, that's not her biggest worry. She doesn't want to die anytime soon, so she's always prepared for the time the male lead may kill her himself. Cardan, who has been sitting in her office, gets up and asks her when she'll let him see Eleanor. Erina freezes. She has no idea about Eleanor, much less how to even see her. He then reminds her that she promised before that she would let him see her at her manor once a month. She lets out an awkward laugh and reasons that she still needs the time to make preparations. At this point, she should just tell him the truth. It's painful to see the FL losing this way. The Emperor sees his way out and confirms once again that she really did lose her memories. She isn't even the same Erina Valoy as before. It irritates him to see her become more of a pushover just like in the past. It seems they had a different bond from before, and the Erina in the past is more like the Erina who lost her memories. In the dead of night, Cardan summons Erina as he is urgently looking for her. What could he possibly want at this hour? Cardan's butler leads her to the Emperor's bedroom, not his office. This is unusual for her, but she's confident that he won't do anything to her, as it never happened in the original novel. As they arrive, she sees Cardan in a robe. He doesn't dare hide his six-pack, too. He has the body of a god. Oops, got sidetracked again. He takes her hand and tells her that he wants to personally thank her, as she has been working hard during her journey around the Empire. Excuse me? Personally thank her? How? Stay calm, FL. With her quick thinking, she decides to remove the sexy mood first. It's a good thing she still has her own skills from her past life's employment. She has honed her skill of being a bartender during company drinking times. Cardan is too stunned to speak. He asks what the mess is all about, pertaining to the number of drinks on the table. Erina beats herself up in her head as she misunderstood the situation all along. Oh gosh, this is so awkward. I'd beat myself too for having a dirty mind. They drink away the time. It seems Erina has had too much. Cardan notices this and just stares at her with those bright red eyes. I can't deny that our ML is really dreamy. He asks her to tell him a story about Eleanor to see if she can come up with another lie. She drunkenly tells him how beautiful she is and how she would like to meet her too. She then passes out in his arms. The next morning, Erina wakes up with almost no clothes on. She looks at the ground and sees most of her garments. Wait, what happened last night? She's thinking for the worst, and as if on cue, Cardan comes in with a robe. He just finished bathing. He asks if she remembers what happened last night, to which she lies again and says that she did. Cardan then teasingly says that he enjoyed what they did last night and that he looks forward to their next night together. Cardan thoroughly explains what really happened last night. To his crow. Apparently, Erina got too drunk and started taking off her clothes. He lied to her earlier because it was fun knowing she was getting the wrong idea. His plan from last night was to make her drunk in order to get something about his mother. But what it proved was that she really did lose her memories. The crow suggests that he has her leave the palace and have her explore more of her identity. At the Empire Church, Erina attends the inauguration speech of the High Priest in the Emperor's place. She is not very happy with the situation. As the event goes on, she notices that people around her are crying as they reminisce about their lives' moments with the High Priest, such as baptism by him. She's not sure what's happening. I hope she doesn't mess up or something. Now it's time for her speech, which makes everyone upset. I called it. Now everyone thinks she's cruel like the rumors say. While everyone else is angry at her, the High Priest chuckles and thanks her for the unique speech, as it rings true to his heart. Later on, both of them talk in private. He asks her if she wants to see the candlelight she left. She doesn't know anything about it, but it surprises her to know that the past Erina is someone who is devout to God. He guides her to her candle and tells her that candlelights don't go out with force, as it only goes out when the owner dies. Erina noticed earlier that his candlelight flickered during the inauguration. He then explains that it's because high priests who step down are destined to join God's side within a few days. This stuns Erina, remembering her speech and finally realizing why everyone was upset hearing her. The high priest tells her that people who light a candle here usually ask God to look over their lives because they're feeling desperation. He wonders how she felt when she lit hers. Erina looks at her own candlelight and wonders the same thing. We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.